The sound of a gun being cocked is something Bumpy Johnson knew intimately. He'd heard it 47 times in his life. Twice it was his own gun pointed at someone who disrespected him. 45 times it was someone else's gun pointed at him. He'd been shot twice, survived both times. So when Bumpy walked into his Harlem apartment on February 7, 1949 at 11:43 p.m., tired, smelling like smoke and whiskey, and heard that familiar metallic click, his hand immediately went to his waistband where he kept a .45 automatic. But then he saw who was holding the gun. Maim, his wife, standing in the middle of the living room barefoot, still wearing her rehearsal dress from the club, tears running down her face, hands shaking so hard the gun barrel was drawing circles in the air. Bumpy's Nan stopped halfway to his .45. He didn't draw, didn't move. Just stood there frozen, staring at the woman he loved, pointing his own .38 revolver at his chest. Mammy said quietly, not scared, just careful. Ma's voice came out as a whisper. Broken, desperate. But Bumpy slowly raised his hands, palms out, showing her he wasn't reaching for his gun. Okay, ask. The room was silent except for the sound of Harlem traffic outside the window and Main's shaky breathing. Can you protect me? 4 words. But they carried the weight of everything that had happened in the last 3 weeks. The men following her to work. The phone calls at 2:00 a.m. with nobody on the other end. The stocking pinned to their front door with a switchblade. Maim wasn't asking if Bumpy was dangerous. She knew he was the most dangerous man in Harlem. She was asking if being with him meant she was already dead. Bumpy looked at her for a long time. Most men would have lied. Would have said, of course I can protect you. Would have promised safety, security, bodyguards. Bumpy Johnson didn't lie to the woman he loved. No, the gun didn't move. Main's finger stayed on the trigger. No, she whispered. Then what am I doing here? Bumpy took 1 step forward, slow, careful. You're here, he said, his voice so quiet you could barely hear it. Because you're going to become someone they're too scared to touch. What happened in the next 60 seconds didn't just save Bumpy Johnson's marriage. It created a legend. But to understand why those words mattered, you need to understand how they got to that moment. You need to understand who Maim Hatcher was before she became Maim Johnson. And you need to understand the night they met, when Bumpy walked into a jazz club with blood on his hands and found the only person who didn't run away. Summer of 1948. Harlem was at war, not the kind of war you read about in newspapers. The kind that happened in alleys, in basement, in back rooms where bodies disappeared and questions didn't get asked. Dutch Schultz was dead. He'd been killed in Newark in 1935, but his organization hadn't died with him. His lieutenants, his soldiers, his entire operation had splintered into a dozen smaller crews, all of them fighting each other for control of Harlem's numbers racket. And caught in the middle of that war was a 43-year-old man named Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson. Bumpy had been running Harlem for 16 years. He'd started as muscle for Madame Stephanie Seistain. Claire back in 1948, Bumpy had become something more. He'd become Madame St. Clair's partner, her strategist, the man who made the decisions when decisions needed to be made. And in the summer of 1948, Bumpy made a decision that almost got him killed. One of Dutch Schultz's old crews, led by a man named Vincent Malone, had been shaking down Harlem businesses, demanding protection money, threatening anyone who refused to pay. August 14th, 1948, 9:37 p.m. Vincent Malone and his crew were at a warehouse on West 145th Street, counting money they'd stolen from Harlem businesses. Bumpy Johnson walked in with 2 of his men. No announcement, no warning. You've been collecting money in Harlem, Bumpy said. Money that doesn't belong to you. Vincent smiled. That cocky, a stupid smile that men get when they think they're tougher than they really are. What are you going to do about it, boy? Bumpy shot him in the knee. Vincent screamed and dropped to the floor, clutching his shattered kneecap, blood pouring between his fingers. His 2 soldiers reached for their guns. Illinois' Gordon and Junie Bird shot them both. Clean kills. Bumpy leaned down to Vincent, who was screaming on the floor. Tell everyone Harlem's off limits. And if you use that word again, next bullet goes in your head. They left Vincent bleeding on the warehouse floor. 3 minutes. That's all it took. But those 3 minutes started a war. Bumpy's hands were shaking when they got back to the car. Not from fear, from adrenaline. From the knowledge that he just started something that could spiral into a war bigger than anything Harlem had seen in years. Take me to Small's Paradise, Bumpy said. Small's Paradise was Harlem's most famous jazz club, where Duke Ellington had played, where Billie Holiday had sung, where the elite of Black Harlem came to drink, dance, and pretend for a few hours that segregation didn't exist outside those walls. Bumpy walked in at 10:47 p.m., still wearing the same clothes he'd worn to the warehouse. Still smelling like gunpowder and blood. The club was packed, 200 people, maybe more. All of them dressed like they were going to church, drinking expensive whiskey and listening to a band on stage. Bumpy found a table in the back and ordered a bourbon. And then he heard a voice coming from the stage, rich, deep, textured like velvet, singing Billie Holiday's Strange Fruit, the song about lynchings, about bodies hanging from trees. Bumpy looked up. The woman on stage was young, maybe 24, 25. She wore a simple black dress, no jewelry, just red lipstick that stood out under the stage lights. Her eyes were closed as she sang, her hands gripping the microphone stand like it was the only thing keeping her anchored to the earth. Bumpy forgot about Vincent, forgot about the warehouse. Forgot about the war that was coming. He just listened. When the song ended, the club erupted in applause. The woman opened her eyes, smiled, took a small bow, and walked off stage. Bumpy found her at the bar. "You've been staring at me all night," she said. "Not accusatory, just stating a fact." Bumpy smiled slightly, hard not to. She tilted her head. Studying him, her eyes dropped to his jacket where a small blood stain was visible on the collar. "You are trouble," she said. "Most likely, and you came to a jazz club looking like you just walked out of a fight." "I did." She should have walked away. Any sane person would have, But instead she looked at him with those dark eyes that had seen too much and asked, "So why would I waste my time talking to you?" Bumpy was quiet for a moment because everyone else in this club is lying to you right now. The men buying you drinks are lying about who they are. I'm not lying. I'm exactly what I look like. A man who just walked out of something violent and came here because your voice made me feel something other than anger for the first time in 3 years. She studied him for a long moment. "What did my voice make you feel? Human?" She smiled, small, almost invisible, but real, said. "Bumpy, I know who you are, and you're still talking to me. I'm from North Carolina," I said, picking up her drink from the bar, Greensboro. I watched the Klan burn my neighbor's house down when I was 12 years old. Stood in the street with my mother while they rode past on horses, torches in their hands, laughing. I've seen worse than blood stains. Bumpy looked at her with something close to wonder. "One drink?" I said. That's all you get to prove you're not wasting my time." They talked for 2 hours. I told him about growing up in Greensboro, about the violence she'd seen, about moving to New York to sing. Bumpy told her about Harlem, about the numbers racket, about Madame St. Clair. At 100 a.m., Bumpy walked my home. "I'd like to see you again," Bumpy said. I looked at him for a long moment. "You're dangerous," she said. "Everyone says so. They're not wrong." "So why would I want to see you again?" "Because I won't lie to you," he said finally.